Open Your Mind to Receive by Catherine Ponder. Chapter 4. Releasing the Old. Speaking words for new good and picturing it are all specific ways for opening your mind to receive. There is also a basic overall method for doing so. It is found in this popular jingle, good, better, best. I will never let it rest until my good is better and my better is best. People have often been conditioned to expect less than the best and to settle for less than the best in life. Part of this conditioning goes back to an erroneous belief about the nature of God and people and their relationship. If you have believed that God has a split personality of good and evil, and that people are sinners and are thereby limited in every way, then of course you have been conditioned to settle for less than the best in life. You didn't dare to claim anything more. But when we learn the unlimited truth about God's goodness and its availability to everyone, we are set free from such limited beliefs and from the limited results of those beliefs. I have found it worthwhile to declare often as I go about my day, nothing but the best. This helps me open my mind to receive in an overall way. Once while vacationing in an unfamiliar area with friends, we entered a crowded, noisy restaurant. Our first thought was whether we should remain and wait in line. Nothing but the best was our decision. Since this situation was not the best for us, we moved on. We quickly found a picturesque restaurant overlooking the water, with quaint surroundings, excellent food, and attentive service. There was none of the noise or feeling of being crowded we found in the previous restaurant. We would not have discovered and enjoyed this unusual place if we had settled for less than the best. How a widow prospers. When we realize that we live in a universe of unlimited good and that a loving God wants us to share in that vast good, then we no longer feel guilty about daring to expect the best in life and to hold out for it. Our beliefs about God and humanity can lead either to a dismal existence or to our accepting and claiming the best in life. This report came from the state of Washington. My husband had just passed away. I was 54 years old, and I realize now, in looking back, that I was accepting considerable limitation. I sold our home and moved into our small summer house. I talked about cutting back on my expenses in order to live on a fixed income. I also accepted the fact that my credit would be more limited than when I was married. All of this limited thinking was dumb. Really dumb. In the last 3 years, I have become managing broker of a real estate office with 6 salesmen licensed to work with me. I have obtained a new mortgage in my name and on my credit reputation. I have paid off some property on which we owed. I bought a nice new car with all the extras. These tangible blessings plus an inner sense of harmony came to me not because of added ability, but because I began to expect a better life. I am the rich child of a loving God, were the words I used daily to reassure myself that I deserved these things and more. How a lawyer passed his bar exam. A young lawyer explained how he passed his bar exam and went into a successful practice in the hill country of Texas, after he conditioned himself mentally to accept his spiritual heritage of nothing but the best. He wrote, "On December 21, 1971, I graduated from law school. During that holiday season, the excitement of finally graduating was extinguished by apprehension about passing the bar exam. Even though I was a law graduate, if I did not pass, I would not be admitted to practice after 3 years of hard work. On January 3, 1972, I began attending the 30-day Bear Review course prior to taking the exam. During the first 3 weeks of that course, I studied on the average of 15 hours a day, but I felt inside that I would not be able to pass. My wife, who worked as hard as I did to get me through law school, and our children were depending on my passing the bar exam. All future employment depended on it, and I did not have the self-confidence to endure this terrific pressure. By the end of the 3rd week of the review course, I was about to lose sanity and was mentally exhausted. That weekend, my mother paid us a visit and gave me a copy of the Ponder book, The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. I seldom read anything Mother gives us, since our literary tastes are so different. But for some reason, I sat down on our front porch and began studying that book. It is hard to describe what took place within me as I read that prosperity and success were my heritage, and that I should expect and claim them. In a short time, these ideas re-established my self-confidence. When I finished reading that book, I felt as if a huge weight had been lifted from my shoulders. When I attended another session of the review course the next day, I was amazed at how confident I had become. Well, I passed the exam and was admitted to the state bar on April 20th, 1972. In August, I was employed by a law firm in the southern part of the state to open and manage a new branch office here in the scenic hill country of Central Texas. It was the exact job I had been praying for, because it allows me to practice law on my own, live in a small country town, and still have a decent salary. All of these blessings came after I realized that the best was none too good for me as a child of God. The results of a first-class consciousness. Once a young man in college used that old cliché, it only costs a little more to go first class. The results were that everything worked out well for him. He was blessed with a lovely wife, nice children, a comfortable home, a fine job, and good health. He developed a life of satisfaction and fulfillment as he held to this theme, how a realtor prospered. Certainly the master teacher had a first-class consciousness 20 centuries ago. Jesus not only had a great prayer consciousness and a great healing consciousness, but he also had a consciousness of nothing but the best, as is evidenced through his prosperity miracles and prosperity parables. Among his many promises was this familiar one, "In my Father's house are many mansions." John 14:2, a realtor meditated upon this prosperity promise of Jesus and received 2 new real estate listings the next day. How to claim the best. Perhaps you are thinking, how do I claim nothing but the best in my life experiences? How can I help to bring this about? An affirmation that has worked miracles for many people is, God is so good, life is so wonderful, and I am so richly blessed. Just thinking in this way helps us to open our minds to the best in life. Another statement that has helped me over the years to expand the good in my world is, I have a divine right to the best. I now trust my divine right to bring me out right in experiencing the best. As you make these statements, your prosperity vow, you become rich from the inside out. The priests were millionaires. That we should have nothing but the best has a strong biblical basis. The priests of the Old Testament were millionaires. It was decreed that they should be lavishly provided for under Mosaic law, which was given to Moses by Jehovah right out of the ethers. Numbers 18:20, 1-32. When the Promised Land was divided, 11 of the tribes of Israel were given all of the Promised Land. The 12th priestly tribe, the Levites, was given none of the Promised Land. Instead, they were to receive from the other 11 tribes all of the tithes from the Promised Land. From those tithes, the Levites were instructed to share a tithe of the tithe, known as a heave offering, Numbers 18:26, with the tabernacle and later with the temple. Through this method, both the priests and places of worship were lavishly provided for. The priests were adorned in the finest garments and jewels, Exodus 28:29. The places of worship were decorated in the finest of woods, fabrics, and gold, Exodus 25:26-27. Perhaps the reason a loving God decreed that the priests should be so well supported by tithes from the rich Promised Land was that the priests needed to be freed from all earthly and material care, so they would have time to grow spiritually and lead their followers forward on the spiritual path. As children of God, we are also, in a sense, priests. Developing a prosperous consciousness frees us from being bound to a material existence, so we too are free to grow spiritually and to help others. The Puritans stressed a belief in prosperity. Prosperity is not only our spiritual heritage, but it is our national heritage as well. The early Puritans believed we were put on earth to use our talents fully and to prosper, that this was God's will. They believed that not to prosper was a sign of God's disfavor. We help to expand the vision the early founding fathers had for America and for the world when we expect the best, thereby prospering. How a school teacher obtained the best. We should expect the best and so live that the best become part of our experience. When we dare to do this, we often make remarkable progress in a very short length of time. It matters not what you have experienced in the past. If you will begin this very moment expecting the best, your very expectancy will cause you to make remarkable progress quickly. Expecting the best works on all levels of life. There once was a school teacher who always expected her students to do well in her classes, and they did. Those same students often did not do well in other classes, but they did so for this woman. She expected it, and it happened repeatedly. The German poet and philosopher Goethe said, "Treat people as if they were what they ought to be, and you will help them become what they are capable of becoming." This lady proved it. An experiment was conducted in one school recently. Students from kindergarten through the 5th grade were placed under certain teachers. These teachers were told that these particular students were exceptionally brilliant. Although the students were not really brilliant, they were simply normal. Nevertheless, these normal students made brilliant marks in school that year. Also, they were far happier than the children around them. Why? They responded to the positive expectations of their instructors. When the teachers considered them the best of students, they became so. When we dare to expect the best for ourselves and for others, we open the way for the best to come to us, often quickly. In any event, we make tremendous progress just by thinking in this way, nothing but the best. How a doctor brought about remarkable healings. There once was a doctor who was able to heal many patients who had been elsewhere and had not been healed. He had no unusual scholastic record in medical school, and had been a very ordinary medical student. Yet when people came to him, even after seeking help elsewhere, they were often healed quickly. An investigation revealed why. He expected the best for his patients. He would even tell those who seemed to be dying that there was no reason for them not to get well right away. Often they did. He frequently said to people, "You can get well because you are better than you thought you were." These constructive words caused his patients to expect the best, and this method worked. A nurse observes that attitudes determine recovery. A nurse in San Antonio, Texas once said, "We can usually tell by a person's attitude on the day he is admitted on this floor of the hospital how long it will take him to get well. Everyone on this floor has essentially the same health problem. When they go to surgery, they go for basically the same operation. By all normal standards, they should all get well and go home in about the same length of time. But it doesn't work out that way." She continued, "I made a discovery when I came into the nursing profession 20 years ago. I quickly realized that attitudes determine a patient's recovery time. When a person admitted on this floor gives us a hard time, is unpleasant or difficult to deal with, and is making a big thing of his illness, we can be sure his operation will be difficult, and his recovery slow. But if he is pleasant, harmonious, cooperative, and is thinking in terms of getting well, then his operation is uneventful and his recovery rapid." She concluded, "Some people go home after surgery in 5 to 7 days. They are the positive thinkers. Some go home in 10 days to 2 weeks. They are less positive. Some go home in about 3 weeks and enjoy ill health for the rest of their lives. They are the negative thinkers. It all depends on what they expect." How a new job and a new marriage came. There once was a widow of 52 who was bored with her menial, low-paying job. Then she learned that she could have whatever she expected. She learned that if she would expect the best, it would still come to her, regardless of age or station in life. This widow decided to find out if expecting the best really worked. She made a list of the blessings she would like to have: a better job, a happier life, even another marriage. Soon after she began thinking along these lines, someone told her that the state of Alaska was a place of great opportunity. She wrote the largest newspaper in Alaska and inquired. The manager of the paper wrote her a personal reply and urged her to come to Alaska. At that time, there were plenty of jobs and no age barrier. She packed up and moved to Alaska, where she soon found a stenographer's job. 6 months later, she married a fine man and settled happily. Later, she said, "I relate this experience because so many people complain about tough luck, bad breaks, unforeseen circumstances, getting old, and so on. If people would expect the best in life instead of expecting tough luck and bad breaks, the tide could turn for them." This woman then gave the affirmations she had used to help turn the tide in her life. "Today and every day I expect the best. Wonderful things are happening to me now. Everything I do turns into good for myself and others." Often she would say, "Wonderful things are bound to happen." And they did. A noted speaker recently said, "No one should go through life a beggar when he can be a king." This woman, later in life, had proved it. Meditation upon the best brings the best. In claiming your gift of nothing but the best, a fine way to begin is by meditating daily upon these words. As a child of God, I have a divine right to the best. I now expect the best. I so live that the best may become a part of my experience. When I dare to expect the best, I make remarkable progress quickly. Expecting the best for others produces remarkable good for them too. Today and every day I expect the best. Wonderful things happen to me now, as I claim my spiritual heritage of nothing but the best.